What would your advice be for somebody who has a considerably one leg shorter than the other? Well, she may have come into the shop this morning, actually.
Yeah, it's so leg length difference. I would say everyone sitting here has a leg length difference of some sort. We're built asymmetrical. So, and if we grew with it, then it's not often an issue. But sometimes, as in if it was something that we developed with, but if we've had an accident or an injury that has created it, then that can sometimes be an issue because it's such a big sudden change to the way the body was used to being used. And so then we might use a heel lift or even a full lift in the shoe to help even that out. Some people aren't affected, so it really depends on if it's symptomatic. If it's not symptomatic, you shouldn't do anything about it, but if it's creating a symptom, then you should do something about it.
Well, protecting her back.
Yeah, so
And she
that's,
has had heel lifts and so on.
yeah, and then it's a trial and error, and so you might put a little lift in, because it might be 2 centimetre difference. You might put half a centimetre in to start with, because the body's quite good at adapting, and just another small change might be enough to help it adapt to the right amount. And then sometimes a leg length difference is not structural, so the bones aren't a different length. It's more, habitually at work, I might do this all the time. And so then I'll get tighter here, and so then end up, I'm having a leg that's functionally longer. And so I think some professions almost like to see this stuff because they're like, we need to always address that. I would rather address it by turning like this for a little while sometimes as well, or more functionally address it rather than having to have hands-on treatment to address it. Yeah. We should go to some more questions, or do you want to do a little and then finish up with a little demo? Yeah. So let's go with some questions. I know there's some good ones out there because I was asked earlier and I said, hold on.
If you only come to this knowledge when you're in your 60s, can you change things if you've got really bad feet and bunions and things? Can things change?
It's never too late. Our bodies are always adapting. I have clients in their 80s changing into these shoes.
Okay.
It might take longer. You might need to do more of the restorative work, and you might have more of the aches and pains that come along with it. And with some digital deformities, that's what we call a bunion, or that the shape may not change, but your function and pain should definitely change.
Right. Okay.
So it's just a time thing mostly. Yeah, it just takes longer.
And often, we've seen it with people, who shared their feedback about doing our training, because you may have spent even longer not looking after your feet, then the benefits can even be more profound.
Right. Okay.
Because it can be really life-changing for people when they regain what we talk about often is like movement freedom and the confidence to do what you love doing. And if you can unlock some of the things that you haven't been able to do for a very long time, whether that's going for a walk or playing a sport that you used to be able to play, that can be super profound rather than maybe someone in their 40s who's just starting to experience the pain.
And we tend to see mostly older people.
Yeah.
Well, when I say older, like if a child has been in their 90s from when they're 3 to 6, it's very easy for them to change into a shoe like this. There's no issues, generally speaking. And even a 25-year-old often can do it very easily, but 35, 40, it might be a bit of an issue. As we get older, they're more likely to have issues. So I guess they're the people that might be coming to use our tools and equipment and programs, or coming to see me personally. So I think we're more likely to have to deal with things in those situations. Yeah.
I would say as well, feet, especially when it comes to deformities, like if anything like bunions or claw toes, hammer toes, they can take some time, a fair bit of time, especially if they've been around for years. And even just the strength and especially the structure of our feet tends to take more time. However, balance can improve very, very quickly because it's more of a nervous system change. And so that can be a good way to, again, my bias is towards balance training, to train both the feet and the integration. But it can be very rewarding and motivating because you can very quickly see, even in days and weeks, you can see very significant changes to your balance. And significant improvements in balance is what we should all be after, especially as we get older. But starting as young as possible. The best time to start was yesterday, and 10 years ago, and then the next best time is now.
So maybe a couple of things. So back in 2020, I did a lot of running, probably around 1,000 miles. And by the end of that year, I ended up with really quite bad plantar fasciitis in both my feet. And I went down the whole route of the knee thick, cushiony, soft, anything, sliders, trainers, everything. And it slowly kind of disappeared and healed itself. And I like the idea of what you're saying about the barefoot shoes, but I worry about going into a barefoot shoe and having recurrence of the plantar fasciitis.
Right.
So
That's a very good question. So I love that you said it healed itself, because that's probably why most plantar fasciitis heals, because our body is innately trying to heal itself. And the cushioning shoe might have helped you deal with some pain in that time, but probably the most powerful thing that helps plantar heel pain is your body trying to heal it. And not orthotics, not cortisone injections, not shockwave therapy, not manipulations.
I've done all of those.
Yeah, that's right. And so, for those that don't know what plantar fasciitis is, mostly it's a pain in the heel. When someone stands up first thing in the morning, they get out of bed, it's like, oh, another walk, and then 10 steps later it's a bit better, and 10 minutes later it's better still, but then later on in the evening they might sit down again, and then stand up and it happens again.
You can take a remedy, homeopathic remedy, Roostox.
There you go. And so, it's not an itis, an inflammation. It could be, if we look at the tissue there, it's actually thickened plantar fascia, possibly because it's being overloaded, because the plantar fascia should work in conjunction with 4 layers of little muscles, the intrinsic muscles of the foot. And nearly all shoes stop our foot moving from here to here. And if a joint is not moving, then the muscle that crosses it isn't getting its chance to lengthen and shorten and won't be as healthy. And so then we might see some extra load on the plantar fascia. If we look at the research as to why people have plantar fascia pain, it's plantar heel pain. It's because they are overweight. Not all of these things, there's some things, they're overweight. There's a lifestyle factor going on, so this could be a sleep issue, it could be stress, it could be food, or it could be a load, or they've done a lot. So you've just described doing a lot.
yeah, they're around about 1,200 miles a year.
So that's under the heading of lifestyle factors, so we need to address those things. They're the big two, basically, that are probably the number one causes of plantar heel pain. But then we also look into the populations that have plantar heel pain and they have weak feet, weak calves, or stiff ankles, or a combination of these things. And so my approach with plantar heel pain is to address those things, bring awareness to weight and lifestyle factors that might have triggered it, and then assess to see if calf strength, foot strength, or ankle mobility are an issue, and address those things. And educate someone that probably this is going to get better on its own, but let's create an environment that's maybe going to speed that up, which would be addressing the causes of the problem in the first place, rather than adding more to the problem. And so, part of going into a barefoot shoe, using a shoe like this, is that your feet have to move more. So it ticks the box on foot strength. Your calf has to work harder because it's flat, so it ticks the box on that, and you have to get more ankle mobility because it's so flat. So the shoe itself is a tool for helping someone with plantar heel pain. But as you would know, if you went into this when you had a raging case of plantar fasciitis, it would hurt like hell because you would land on your heel and it would really hurt. But then that might be helpful as well because you may even change your gait and start not heavily heel striking as much, which might be part of the reason why it happened in the first place. A shoe like this is a tool to help your gait as well. So, given your history, I would say that this is part of the solution, but we should do it very gently with some exercises on restoration of what you might find is not up to speed, which might be calf strength, ankle mobility, balance, foot strength. And so that's why we have online programs that easily look after all those things, as well as help you transition into a shoe like this.
So the other question I had then was about, I guess, ankle mobility or ankle stability, really.
Yeah.
Is about a year ago, I managed to turn over on my right ankle quite badly. It didn't break it, I don't think I tore anything, but it's really quite weak. So at the moment, if I do a lot of walking, I find I've got to wear high sided boots. Because if I walk in these, for example, every single time I go over, I'll roll my ankle in.
Yes.
But I'm also just, when you're talking about flat shoe, these probably have about an 1.5 inch heel on them.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, are these less likely to cause a rollover, is my question.
Well, a heel actually puts the bones, the two leg bones that come down into the ankle bone here,
Yeah,
it actually puts it in a position that is more likely to roll than if it's flat.
yeah.
So when it's flat, it's in what's called this mortise, it's like a locked position. As soon as you come up into this position, it's unlocked and more likely to roll. And so we have Melbourne Cup Day, the races, and you see the generally young ladies in a shoe walking through, that's really high, walking through often muddy grass, and then their ankle just goes doom like this, because this is in such an unstable position. So having a heeled shoe creates instability at the ankle. But after an ankle injury like that, if you sprained your shoulder or your back, you would see the physio and they'd get you moving it, they would calm it down, get it moving better, and then get it stronger, so that you didn't have, they would basically rehabilitate your back. And so, as Jim spoke of, we should be rehabilitating that ankle. And if you feel like it's still weak, then it's not rehabilitated. If you're still having an issue, then you haven't taken your rehabilitation to the level that should bring it back to where it was. We shouldn't, or better than before. A lateral ankle sprain shouldn't mean your ankle's written off for the rest of the time. So that's, again, rehab the ankle, and then, and part of this shoe is part of the rehab. When your foot hits that rock in this shoe, all the bones through here get to accommodate the rock. In your stiff heeled shoe, these are along for the ride, and then you're far more likely to just go dull.
Yeah, which is what happens, literally, the tiniest little rock, and if I'm not paying attention, I'll be over.
And if you do it in a shoe that is not like that, you're not going to, your foot just accommodates it. You actually seek, in shoes like this, you seek those lumps and bumps, because they feel damn good.
Okay.
Seriously, I've got serious issues with my left ankle, and I was always told to wear mountaineering boots, hard-wearing boots. And I was constantly in pain, and I found that my feet were fatiguing, I was fatiguing, couldn't do the distance. I made the turn into the Vivos, and it took a little bit of getting used to, seriously, but now, 25, 30 mile in, not a problem, and I can do multi-days, I'd never go back, and I had serious issues with my balance. The Vivos have squared that away. You know, I can't sing enough about the Vivo Barefoot personally. It's patience and just getting used to it. It's a game changer.
And one like this has some ankle support. If you're doing a lot of load and you're not used to it, then, you know, there is a shoe for every occasion these days. There's not all or nothing.
Yeah, we're not a wallet for every occasion.
That's right.
But that's not stopping the function of your ankle, is it? It's like a sort of more of a hug than a.
And
it's
not
not
and I think,
giving you.
It stops stuff getting down there. It's
Yeah.
easier to put gaiters over
Yeah.
it, so it's a bit more functional.
And weatherproof, you know, it's
Yeah,
just
that's
up
right.
there for weatherproof,
It's
but
reduced
hopefully
fatigue,
soft
reduced
enough.
stress,
Yeah, but
and confidence.
it took you a while to, like it's not it's better immediately type of thing. That's why we have to speed up that process and to be able to deal with those little niggles along the way. It's worth doing some work on your feet.
Well, it gives you so much more confidence, though, too, doesn't it? Bringing your feet where you feel like you've got control over your feet rather than your shoes doing it.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different realm when your feet are
I find that
confident.
hiking in that stiff heeled and ankle supportive shoe, you're out there to enjoy nature in its element, and then putting something between you and nature that just takes away from that enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
It may sound woo-woo, but I'm sure you've probably found that the experience on the trails, like your feet are giving you feedback and
Yeah.
you're more in touch with the whole
I was
experience.
so used to being in pain every time I was out walking, it wasn't enjoyable, but I knew I had to do it to stay fit and try and reconnect with myself and find myself again. Whereas now I can go back to mountaineering boots. I've tried it and it hurts far too much, so it's Vivos or Alteras, and then just bomb-proof.
Yeah.
And when I'm out with groups of friends and there's stopped for a sandwich or a drink or something, and they're all taking their boots off. Yes, it's funny. And there's me in my Physio walking boots, and I'm just so comfy and I can just keep going.
But again, I think it's down to sock choice as well.
Yeah. So no, I love them.
Up the back.
Yeah, I started using your roller,
Yeah.
doing all the exercises about a year ago. I'd had a knee replacement 3 years prior to that, and just found that I wanted to really look after my feet more. I've got bunions and I've been using the stretchers between the two toes. Where I used to have pain in the bunions, I do not have that pain anymore. It would be really nice to know if I could actually reduce those bunions anymore. I'm convinced that they're not going to get bigger doing these exercises, but can you actually do anything more about? I mean, I know that it's unlikely to go, but.
So a bunion is a lump. So if your foot is really wide like this, and you never wore shoes, it would stay like that. And most people that have a bunion have a what we call a wide first, second metatarsal angle. So instead of these two bones being parallel, they're a bit wider like this. And then conventional shoes do this more to that foot than the foot's like this. And so that's what is the big trigger for bunions. There are other reasons you might have bunions as well. Lateral ankle sprains, other injuries might cause help be part of why you might have a bunion. Those with more flexible joints are more likely to get a bunion as well. But generally speaking, it's because you've got a wider first, second metatarsal angle, and then the shoe does this. And so there are different classifications for bunions, but for today we'll talk about 4. There's stage 1, which is just like a little lump, and I would say if you don't have a straight big toe, you've probably got a stage 1 bunion. So a lot of people do because they've been wearing conventional shoes. Stage 2 is a bit more like this. Stage 3, it's starting to really press on the second toe, and maybe the second toe is starting to lift a bit. And stage 4 is where there's an actual overlap. So stage 1 and 2, for all stages, you get better pain relief, like less pain and better function with wearing shoes and doing rehab, generally speaking. So that accounts for you feeling better already. In stages 1 and 2, with time, we can see that, and sometimes more specific exercises, but then just generally as well. Like my wife would have had a stage 2 bunion, and she would never do an exercise I might suggest, like ever. But she'd be like, "Can you grab my feet?" Well, that's not going to help your bunion. So no. Anyway, but she did change her shoes, and over 5 years, her feet, she has far less pain, better function, and a straighter big toe. But in stage 3 and 4, we don't see a lot of change to shape, but we still see improvement in pain and function. And that's with generic exercises, and maybe you've done some specific ones with the pressure through here, because a bunion there's 6 muscles that work only on the big toe area, because we gave up the ability to do this with our foot, so we could stand up straight and walk a long way, and so to use the big toe is super important. And here we are using shoes that just ride it off, and we start using this part of our foot here. And someone else is going to ask me about neuromas, and that's why we get neuroma issues and bursitis issues in this area, because we're not using our big toe. So the muscles around the big toe, there's one that I call the anti-bunion muscle. Its job is to shorten as we push off and pull your toe this way and down. Working opposite it, that's this one here, the anti-bunion or the arch muscle, okay? Working opposite is a little muscle in here that runs like this. Its job is to pull your toe down and across this way. So this one gets a mechanical advantage because shoes keep pushing your big toe sideways. It gets tight and strong, I would say. This one doesn't have much of a chance. So when we get that balance better, when we work on that exercise, like Jim has you doing this spreading, that's like stretching this out, like giving this some release through here. And then some of the other exercises, like pushing down through your big toe and doing a calf raise with load through that big toe, really help activate this. And some of the balance exercise really help you activate this muscle. You may even cramp up in it because it's weak, because it hasn't had a chance to work for a long time. So when we get that balance right, then we can start seeing the toe straighten out a bit better as well. But then that's why the balance is so important as well, because when we're balancing, we're working in these muscles on the inside of the ankle, which help create stability here. We're working on the muscles on the outside of the hip, which help create stability here. So it's not just this localized change your shoes and you get a magic bunion fix, unless you're my wife. It's working on these other aspects as well. They're fiddly exercises, which is why just doing some balance, which ticks a lot of these boxes, is really helpful.
I really enjoy them.
Yeah, and if it's fun and enjoyable, then you're more likely to do it. Whereas when I ask someone to wave their big toe around, it lasts for about 3 weeks, if they're lucky. Yeah.
It's a good question though, because there's so many people. every second person you probably see walking the street would have some form of a bunion
Yeah,
developing.
if we use that classification of anything that's not straight.
Yeah. But I also saw you wince when Andy was describing how the shoes have been doing that to your foot. And it's pretty confronting. Like, I know you've probably seen foot binding in Chinese culture, and everyone goes, how horrific, like how could they do that to people's feet? But when we look at modern shoes and what they're doing, they're literally deforming people's feet. And so that's why we stress on the education so much, and like we've got a lot of online education, but the more you can share this sort of knowledge with friends and family, and also particularly with bunions, people often sort of blame it on genetics and will say, well, my mother or my grandmother had bunions like that. And our argument, and Andy will reinforce this, is that it's probably because you were wearing the same sorts of shoes as your mother or grandmother, not necessarily.
Same genetics, plus more importantly, the same kind of shoes. Yeah.
I forgot to mention, sometimes people think they have bunion. If there's restriction in the big toe joint and bony change around here, this is more something we call hallux limitus or hallux rigidus. You might have heard of that. That's when we can't use the big toe through its full range, and then we're more likely to have to toe off this way. If it's fully not moving, it's very hard to do anything about, and we need to get really strong at pushing off this way. But if it still has movement, then you can slowly help it be mobilized by physically, like giving it a pull and a gentle movement and getting that toe like actively moving a bit more. Getting all the muscles around it, because if that joint is not moving well, then the muscles that cross it, which are many, aren't going to be moving as well either. And so let's give those muscles some love, some deep pressure, some exercise where they get to shorten as much as they can and lengthen as much as they can. And so that they're going to help support this joint and not be as sore. It's whether you'll be able to get it to that range is is a case-by-case scenario, but just giving it some regular input to rehabilitate it and keep it going is definitely worthwhile. Yeah.
I know I've asked a question already, but I'm looking at, from what you said earlier, it's always good to have a back to your shoe.
Yeah.
And I've been looking for some shoes to slip on so I can go out and just go and then come back and take them off.
How long are you out in the garden for in that situation?
Well, I should be 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. If it's fine, I go barefoot, but if it's not, I don't.
So,
or if it's frosty.
Yeah, I have an old pair of my Birkenstocks at the front door, and when I take my dogs out for a wee at night, I slip them on if it's not barefoot conducive weather.
I've just rejected barefoot.
Yeah,
after many years.
I think a short-term thing with that's not fixed. If you're not in it for long, is probably not a big deal. Like we have, but if it's also not such a bad practice if you're going to be on your feet for a little bit longer out there to just bend over and pull a strap around the back.
Yeah.
We get so easily into this mode of just doing the easiest thing, but it's not a bad practice just to bend over and do that.
But when you're in that,
Yeah.
I have a Pagosa. Zero has a slipper, the Pagosa slipper, that you just can slide your foot in and then you can put up the back as well. And they're indoor, outdoor. So that might be an option for you.
Somebody was recommending, I suppose I shouldn't mention names, but Skechers, because they have
They'll put you on a...
Yeah, so that people love them, especially as we might be getting older, because you can slip them on. But I as a podiatrist, I've cut people's toenails for 25 years because they can't cut them for themselves. At what point, what month do you say I can't do that anymore? Like at what point can't you reach your foot? I'm not guilting people if they can't do that, but if we stop doing it, then we can't do it at some point. And so I think that's a cop-out to say I can't do it, unless there's been a big injury. And so
There is a younger man speaking.
Yeah, but you have to keep on saying that.
Day in, day out.
Absolutely.
I'm really conscious of it. I'm not trying to guilt people. But if you stop doing it, then it's going to be a lot harder to do it. And if we're worried about falls, we should be good at getting down on the ground and getting up off the ground. And if we stop doing it, then that's when you're more likely to have a problem. And so Skechers are very popular, probably because they can be slipped on, they're very light.
And the person who has the franchise lives in Kington.
And they are soft and cushy like a couch. Is it good to sit on the couch all day? I don't think it probably is. It's nice to sit there sometimes, but not all the time. They squish your toes. They stop you feeling the ground. They're a little bit flexible, but when you have flexibility in a shoe and not allowing your toes to splay, that may be not such a good thing, because the splaying of your toes creates the stability that you don't need if you've got a flexible shoe. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan.
So this one up.
Yeah, it probably isn't connected, maybe it is. My knees are really weak. I didn't know if that was connected at all to...
It's hard to know where the weakness is, but footwear, I can speak of footwear and knees. The more heel we have on a shoe, the more load there is at the knee.
Right.
The more cushioning there is on a shoe, the more load there is at the knee.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like people think, oh, I need a cushioned shoe to protect my knee, but actually all a cushioned shoe is stops your foot doing its job and puts load further up.
I do notice since having the barefoot shoes that when I live just on a hill, when I go down the hill, if I have barefoot shoes on, it doesn't hurt my knees. And when you do have like walking boots on, you know, old-fashioned ones, then it does hurt my knees.
Because they load the knee more. Yeah, that's a really nice example.
I was just going to ask what you mean by weak knees.
They're just very stiff, so I know I'm active, I find it difficult to kneel down, and I can kneel, but I find the actual getting down and getting up again.
So it's stiff and a bit sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to bring it back to balance training, but I mean, very simple exercises. They're not very fun, but just gradually learning how to stabilize and balance while you reach further and further forward with that side is a very simple exercise that you can do, and you can incorporate that with different balance training strategies to make it a bit more interesting and a bit more bang for buck.
Okay.
But just very gradually learning how to control your body weight. That's similar to walking down a hill, but it's just doing it as part of an exercise and doing it very slow and controlled. Would be a good idea.
In a graduated way.
Yeah.
Because then your hips helping control your knee, and your feet are getting involved as well. It's not just like relying on the knee.
Yeah.
So it's like retraining your body
Yeah.
to use all its facets.
Thank you.
Next one over here.
Yeah, I have a Morton's neuroma,
Yeah.
and I've also had plantar fasciitis 3 times. I've had a colectomy on the other foot, and I injured my SI joint a year ago, and that's not healed yet. So I'm looking, I know I need to get a wide toe box for the Morton's neuroma, but I'm worried that I'm going to jar my back, or I'll get plantar fasciitis again.
Sure.
If you go, are you saying if you go to the wide, or if you go to a shoe that's flatter and more flexible?
More flexible.
Yeah, and less cushion. Yeah. A neuroma, for those that don't know, is we have these nerves that run between the joints of our foot here, and so a neuroma is where there's extra nerve tissue around it, maybe some scar tissue or a bump. The nerve is not as smooth as it once was, and so then you get shooting pain either in that area, into your toes, or around that area, and nearly always caused by compression this way. Okay, pressure this way. Hence why a wide shoe is like the gold standard, and not traditionally wide here, but wide there, because then the toes splay, and then you really get decompression of that area. So it's a no-brainer for your neuroma. For your plantar fascia, so we spoke about that before. So I'd say graduated and maybe using a little bit of cushioning to start with, but in the long term should be helpful for whatever was driving your plantar fascia and plantar fascia pain or plantar pain. And you shouldn't do it straight away or for big activities. It's just about being really sensible about going into that shoe. And then, and this is similar to the knee, when we put cushioning on the heel, it lets us put our foot out in front of us in what's like a braking action and heavily land on the heel with a straight leg that puts less load on the foot but puts more load further up. And so if you're concerned about your joint here, this is putting a cushion there allows you to do this position. The issue with going into less shoe that doesn't allow you to do this is you'll probably still do it to start with because you're so accustomed to this position. Ideally, we should walk with our foot closer to under us when we land, still landing on our heel, but more under our centre of mass. and then our foot pushing us off more powerfully like this, rather than getting our power from overstriding. And so my worry would be for someone when in a situation like that we will still overstride with less shoe, and that's going to put a lot of force up into here. Within a short period of time, this doesn't feel that comfortable, and you end up, the shoe is a tool for helping you walk more efficiently. So I would say it's great, because then when you land with your foot under you, that's going to be better for your whole system. It's going to mean there's less load there, of that jarring load. But if you did it straight away for a big walk, then it might be something that aggravates it. So again, you just have to do it very gently. And be doing things that help make that process smooth. Some like restorative exercises and things that help you control the way you walk better, like balance.
That's really,
balance.
We'll keep coming back to that, but we stress on it, but the shoe is part of the solution, but not the whole solution.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with all these other things.
Toolkit.
You've got
But
it.
I haven't actually used the log because I haven't wanted to put any more strain on the SI joint on one side.
Yeah.
So I haven't used that.
I can go through a bit of a demo, after the questions.
We've got a balanced screen now as well.
Yeah.
Which
I wouldn't send you there though, just yet. Yeah, just because, if you've got SI joint issues and you're concerned about loading one side, then there's ways that you can progress balance without actually standing on one leg, and that would be the best way to go. Yeah. I'll demo that later.
So I'm kind of new to barefoot shoes, but I love them. I've always basically liked not wearing shoes. Before I started on barefoot shoes, I developed a pain right where my Achilles tendon, I think, joins my heel. And I do a lot of walking and a lot of uphill, and it's not getting better. I can't put my old shoes back on, although now confess I'm wearing Skechers as we speak, I'm sorry. But I can't wear my old walking boots because they don't make it better, and I hate where my feet feel. With an injury, or whatever it is, it's right at the back and it's on one foot. What do I do to make it go away? Yes, there.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It's possibly, without assessing it, insert what we call insertional Achilles tendonitis. So this is the Achilles tendon, and so someone might get Achilles tendonitis, which is inflammation of that area, and then you can get insertional Achilles tendonitis, which is not uncommon for someone going from a heeled shoe to a flat shoe. That's like one of the things like, oh wow, that's not, I'm kind of expecting that.
The thing that is, I should say, is it started before I went to
Okay,
barefoot
there
shoe.
you go. And then you've gone to barefoot shoes and it got worse?
No,
No, good.
it's just not got better. Everything else got better. The knees, I'm happy. My toes are singing. It's all just delightful. Except for this thing, and I don't know. Do I rest it? Do I?
Yeah. So often with Achilles stuff, it's okay to stretch it, but when it's insertional, that tends to aggravate it. And so walking up a hill will aggravate it because that's stretching it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's stretching it. And so still loading it. The gold standard for Achilles issues is to gently increase load in a graduated way. So it's not like, okay, today I walk 1k, tomorrow I walk 2k, or that 1 mile, 2 mile. That might be part of gradually loading it, like watching how much walking you're doing.
Yeah.
But it should also go along with a loading program, which might be doing some calf raises to work out where you're at, like where does it aggravate it, and you peel it back a bit, but then push a bit further and just slowly trying to get load, because connective tissue, like a tendon, reacts, well, they heal with load. Yeah. And then sometimes I put a little heel lift in a barefoot shoe to take some load off while we're building up the load in a more sterile setting. You know? So you can still go for walks and things like that and still get the benefits of the barefoot shoe, but with a small heel lift in it.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, again, it's hard to give any specific advice, but certainly with tendon issues in terms of exercise, the accepted place where most people should start is with what's called isometric exercise. So you're exercising the muscle or the area, but without actually moving. So this hand is demonstrating an isometric there now. So instead of doing lots of moving calf raises, you might just hold a calf raise position for say 30 to 45 seconds at a time. And there's research that shows that it can provide some helpful pain relief as well, but it also, the point is we're trying to strengthen the muscle and get some load into the tendon without aggravating it. So that's the key with exercise is you want to do enough that you've stimulated a change, but not too much that you're then sore for the rest of the day or sore the next day, or extra sore the next day. And often isometric exercises are the best place to start with that. Yeah. The other thing you could do, depending on your tolerance to inflicting pain on yourself, is massage the calf. Either get it massaged by someone, or use something like a foam roller or something like this that you can sort of sit on. And, yeah, I can demo like this. And then sometimes just releasing some points in the calf will help reduce the symptoms.
Right.
But that's not going to improve the strength. It's only going to be a symptom management thing, but it can help you get more out of your exercise.
Is there any particular reason why it's just one side and not the other? Is that going to tell me something about the way I'm walking?
It's the body's a little too complex to sort of make those kinds of. It could be. There's a lot of different ways. We're all asymmetrical with the way we move, and it could be an injury that you had when you were young that never fully got rehabilitated, and yeah, it's hard to say exactly why one side hurts and the other side doesn't.
So yeah, sorry to jump in again. So about a year ago, I was getting metatarsalgia on the bottom of my right foot. Well, that's what Dr. Google said it was anyway. So that was kind of a pain in the ball of the foot, very much like Morton's neuroma, but it was just there all the time. So about a year ago, I could walk maybe 6 miles and then I'd be in agonising pain. But this year, I basically quit work and got myself a van, and I've literally been walking around South Wales for the last 5 months, and I can happily go out now and walk 25 miles, almost like pain-free. And is that something that foot strength has improved? Because I thought metatarsalgia was like an arthritis type pain. So I'm surprised, and I'm wondering if obviously doing all this walking is giving me foot strength, which is why I'm looking to move over onto potentially barefoot to even improve that more.
Yeah, would you like to touch on metatarsalgia as a broad principle, and then we can get...
Metatarsalgia just means, algia is pain, and metatarsa is this part of the foot. So it just means pain in this part of the foot. It's like saying you've got a headache.
Okay, so it's not arthritis necessarily.
So, and there might be like...
It could be arthritis, but Morton's neuroma is a type of metatarsalgia.
Yeah, bursitis.
Bunions can be a type of
metatarsalgia.
Okay.
Any pain in this area is metatarsalgia. And so it's impossible to predict why it happened. In terms of what was driving it, whether it was a neuroma or a bursitis or a bony thing, the fact that it's gone is, again, testament to the human body wanting to heal.
Yeah.
And maybe because your feet did get stronger because you've been doing more walking.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
But I would say most people get it because their big toes are their toes are squished, and this area is not designed to be compressed that way. It's meant to be compressed down when we land and then spring back up.
I should say as well, with all of these conditions, we've got a YouTube channel that I've got a number of different routines that you can try. It's sort of no guarantee because everyone's individual, but that can be a really great place to start. If you're, for example, with the Achilles, in my routine I will have some isometric calf exercises basically. So like I said, everyone's going to be different. The routine might not suit you exactly, so you have to alter things, but I try to make them as beginner friendly as possible. So it's a good place to start with it. Most of the common conditions. It's just the Foot Collective on YouTube. Yeah, if you just type the Foot Collective, it'll come up.
Can I just ask about, I've read quite a lot about people losing the fat, and I see people in my clinic with very thin feet, holding a bag of cutlery in your nose. And would you recommend barefoot?
I've never heard it called that.
Do you know something?
You've got a bag of What do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah, what in your clinic?
Well, it's a foot and health practitioner.
So not a trend as yet. But I never know what to say to them. And I talk to people a lot about barefoot shoes, but I sort of think, well, if somebody's feet are so lacking in fat, and obviously we do lose fat, don't we?
We do, especially if we haven't used it. And so if you can imagine a carpenter's hands, and then imagine my little podiatry hands that have been doing fine work. How many years? I can't remember the bag. It's very different because our plantar and palmar surfaces react to pressure by laying down more load if they're being stimulated. And so a lifetime of non-stimulation leads to fat pad atrophy.
That's what I was going to go
And so
on.
it's very hard to reverse.
Right.
You sometimes can tape it in to make the most of it, but then you might need to use a barefoot shoe with a little bit of cushioning to help them with that. And the other analogy I like to think of is I have 2 Kelpie dogs, which are like the border collie here, and they have got the toughest paws compared to the little poodle next door that doesn't, you know, so their surfaces are quite similar to
So
ours.
really, if they wore them from a younger age, they wouldn't lose that fat so much. It would be.
That's right, yeah, so sometimes I hate to say it's too late, but you just have to accommodate, and maybe it does change a little bit. I did a talk similar to this once, and we went out for a barefoot walk, and we had to we went onto a gravel road, and we had to literally lift someone off and move him, because he got on there and he couldn't move anymore, because he was so unaccustomed to getting that deep pressure. And just like our biceps can get stronger, our balance can get better, our ability to cope with texture and pressure is quickly changed with gradual exposure.
And it takes only a very small amount of cushioning to make all the difference. You can
Yes.
still feel the ground, but it takes that
You don't need a
sharpness
hocker,
away.
you just need like 2 mils, 3 mils.
Also, maybe we've never seen anyone really improve with their fat because they don't ever get there because it hurts. So they don't ever, you don't really see it. But I would say all these things are possible if you push through and you keep going.
Well, I was reading a book the other day, and it's quite an old podiatry book, but it was basically saying that everybody loses all the fat on their feet. It's really depressing.
Oh,
Like, it
hate
just
that kind of
happens,
thing.
no,
If they live long
it's-
enough.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
But I see people with nice cushiony feet when they're older.
That's right.
So,
And Ali, do you mind me just talking about your feet for a second?
Sure, yeah.
So you've got arthritic feet, yeah?
Yeah.
And so they often have a lack of...
My feet are bones sticking through all over the place on the bottom.
Arthritic can be a systemic arthritic condition. And so do you need to have some cushioning?
No, I mean, I think I've just strengthened my feet enough to not need it.
Yeah.
You know, the rest of my foot has compensated for the lack of what I haven't got.
Yeah.
I mean, my toes look like my hands,
Yeah.
you know, and I ran the Mortimer Trail 30 miles, you know, in a day with feet that look like my hands.
I didn't need to see your
So-
feet to know that your feet look like that, just because I saw your hands.
Yeah. So this has been my, you know, my journey for the last 6 years, really longer than that. But this is why I'm just so passionate about it, because I know it works. You know,
It's awesome to see, because often the person selling it is like, you know, so able, so young, like so much. They don't have any issues. So to see this, it's really powerful.
it's good to have it on my hands, so I don't have to keep on taking off my shoes. But yeah, my feet look like this. But yeah, it's amazing, and feet do move; they come back. But you have to push through it. We're told so often, I think, to stop. If something hurts, oh, you better stop. But you never know what's possible. I was talking to Charlie about that. I mean, you're a classic example of pushing, you know, working through something. And we don't ever know what's possible. We're just so limited by our self-limitations all the time. So we assume these things. And unfortunately, a lot of health practitioners tell us this stuff. So, and if they, you know, they're the authority, so we listen. So it's so important to have practitioners like you, functional
It's really a good
practitioners.
point. When someone goes to see a podiatrist, they're in pain, or a physio, they're in pain, and the goal of that practitioner is to get them out of pain, and that's the system that's set up.
That's it.
And really, we should be saying, how's this affecting your function, and can we increase function? Because when we increase function and pain stays the same, we're winning. Like someone can suddenly walk their dog more and get the same amount of pain, then that's a win. Or if they can play tennis this week and they couldn't last week and they've still got the same amount of pain, I would say that's a win.
It's confidence, it's self-empowering for me too. It's like, well, if I can do this, what else can I do? It's changed my life, just changing my feet.
And so at some point, as function increases, pain starts to decrease. But if we're just measuring pain, then we're just going to keep throwing things at it that only affect pain and don't worry about function. So we should be really focused on function. and less so on pain. You know, I'm not going to say just push through it, but just know that if, I can't say because it's, you know, someone goes out and breaks their foot and gets a
Yeah, you can't do
because they
that.
tell them to push through it.
We're all different. I mean, everyone's got a
I
different
would
story.
say the frame could just be, you know, pain is a teacher and you need to listen to it, but often it's about slowing down or trying a different route than completely stopping. I think that's where a lot of practitioners will just go the sort of safe route of just saying, well, don't do that anymore. You know, maybe you're too old to run or too old to do whatever, or that, you know, it's just, this is obviously not good for you, so just stop doing that. But there's risks to stopping doing activities as well, which is a
Much bigger
accelerated
risk, I think.
decline, much worse risk so often it's about finding a different route or slowing down on the route that you are on, rather than stopping completely. Yeah.
And just on that point, before we get to your question, it was.
It's not a question, I was just kind of going to tie together.
You go for it.
I was just going to say, like, from what you both said, and I think it's relevant to like, life in general. I'm a hypnobirthing practitioner, so what you were saying about like function and pain, people think that giving birth has to hurt, but they don't realise that if you use your body correctly, that's what it's meant to do, in the same way with the feet. And what you said about being empowered, it's having the knowledge to question things and not just take what you're given by the fashion industry or an old-fashioned podiatrist or what have you. That is your lot in life, and that's how it's going to be. And I think just even if people walk away from here today and aren't wearing their barefoot shoes, that they now have some knowledge to know that they should question things, and that just because somebody is in a position of authority doesn't mean that they know.
That's true with the ageing process as well. You know,
Yeah,
we're told certainly that things are supposed to happen at a certain
and we just
time.
believe what people tell us, but it's not true, because, you know, I know both through my feet, like I've broken bones and I've healed myself, but also with giving birth, just how you can use your body for how it's meant to. So I just thought I would tie that together, because it is about empowerment and relearning, so shifting your mindset maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone's probably a bit overwhelmed by everything they've heard today. Like, there's a lot that we've covered, but really, and you can probably speak to this, Jim, but we've spent the last, well, us together and Nick more broadly has spent the last 10 years hearing people's stories, exactly like everyone in this room, with this condition and this injury and that injury. And the results that we've seen across the board have often been from I guess, providing people with very similar solutions. And we launched a program, was it this year?
Yeah.
Wow. What's this year? But a 12-week program that pretty much just guides you step by step through that restoration journey. So it can be really, overwhelming to go, okay, I've got all this information, I know I need to improve my foot health, but what do I actually do along with wearing the shoes? And so we've put a lot of energy, Jim and Andy and Tom, our other head physiotherapist, into just designing a program that can like hold your hand through it and help you take it really gradually. So I'm not trying to sell you on that, but I'm just saying that if it is feeling overwhelming, then there is sort of that online solution that you can just go, okay, tell me what to do each day, and build it up really gradually, so that you can restore all of the bits and pieces that are meant to work in the feet. And what we've seen is often people with plantar fasciitis, bunions, Norton's neuroma, if they get the feet functioning the way they're meant to function, then those things often,
Yeah, it's very, very similar, like I was talking before about shoulders. Like, shoulders are supposed to move a certain way, hips are supposed to move a certain way. So as a physio, I've found it more important to look at how the body should function naturally, and learn how to restore that function in any part of the body, rather than trying to treat certain conditions like a rotator cuff injury or this or that. It's just look at the way it's moving and not moving the way it should, and then find ways to progressively make it move the way it should naturally. And then, I'm not going to say coincidentally, but pain tends to fade because the body is always seeking to self-heal and self-organize anyway, and so providing that, you're providing an environment for it to heal well by optimizing for function. Yeah.
Can I just say, I find it so hard to believe that podiatrists don't want to know what shoes you've got on, so they'll create these amazing orthotics for you and look at your feet, and then they don't ask to see your shoes. And so for people who do need orthotics, if it's an acute problem, sometimes they do, right? You're saying that that can be a solution initially to get them walking, because ideally that's what we want to do, right? First and foremost, they need to move and keep strong and walk. But for me, a barefoot shoe is a blank slate for that orthotic to go into initially as well. So why don't they just promote barefoot shoes anyways? Why wouldn't you have a square toe box?
So the process of making an approach these days, when I used to do it was with a plaster cast non-weight bearing, but we watch someone walk barefoot and assess how their foot's moving and come up with a prescription, because they're often custom made, of watching them walk barefoot. And then now they don't use plaster cast, they use a scanner. So the foot is not weight bearing, which means
totally
they've just watched something that is weight bearing and then doing a custom device by doing a scan like this. And then it's really an industry that is
It gets stuck, doesn't it?
There's
It's
even
just
research from the ones that are prescribing them, are very pro them, that show that they work better if they're blue or green compared to if they're red or dark.
Yeah.
And so, anyway.
I have a dog who's just left actually, it's a shame, but she's got insoles and always has because of tendon issues, yeah?
Because of a tendon issue?
On both feet.
Yes.
It's also part of her disability.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, she's got a learning disability as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But she's got orthotics.
Yeah.
And the orthotics are now saying, we will make you a boot.
Yeah.
Now, we're in this situation where she's wearing barefoot and she's wearing her insole in the barefoot.
Yeah.
Which I quite like because it's fashionable, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I'm worried about her feet as well, but she's worried about fashion. Am I better off advising her to go against the NHS orthotics department to make her boot?
Yeah, I can't answer that because I don't know the situation or how to assess it. But I would say how she functions is really critical. So if you notice, if she does go down that route, doesn't mean she has to be in it all the time. Maybe it is better for her in some of the time, but other times she can be here and she can be here. So
well, she's managed. She's 30 now, and she's managed for a very long time to walk with a very misshapen foot.
Yeah.
And she's walked through it all the time.
And is there now more issues, and that's why they're suggesting more?
No, it's because she's moved into independent living and she's got support, and they tend to go back around the safe area, the safe cycle.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and the more you put it on a foot, the more it needs something as well.
So am I better off keeping her as she is and naturally fighting through it?
I can't answer that, but I would just be, if she has the ability to choose what's most comfortable, and if that can be less, then that might be helpful.
It gets complicated because if she rejects the boot, the orthotics department might reject the insole. And the insole has proven to work.
Yeah.
So I have to be careful
and this
not to go
idea,
all
also, that's right. And this idea that you need new insoles over and over again is not really, it's rare that you have to replace them every 2 years. It's because that they are getting funding every 2 years. They often don't need to change. But anyway, it's hard to say.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very hard to say. I know
that's fine.
I've dealt with a few clients with cerebral palsy, and we stumbled upon this because one came to see me because they had stumbled upon it using an AFO, which is like the gold standard for ankle and a neuromuscular condition of the ankle, to use this thing that is like this, almost like the boot you're describing. And this client got an ulcer on her ankle bone, and so took off her AFOs, and her co-workers noticed that she was far better transferring. She's not weight bearing most of the time, but she was far better transferring from her chair to the bed or the bed to the couch. She was better transferring when she was barefoot, because even though she has a nervous system condition, her feet feeling the ground made her whole body work a whole lot better. And so she's still in her AFO some days, but we're now doing like scratching and deep pressure and brushing and and vibration and hot and cold and all these different things to the sole of her foot, and her whole function is better. Or another friend of mine who's an osteopath, her daughter has cerebral palsy as well, and they put weights on her legs and have her feet bare when she's at the dinner table into something that gives spiky stimulus on the sole of her feet, and then her knife and fork work is better because of the pressure she's getting through her feet.
Right.
Her whole nervous system is lit up to work better.
Okay.
So the rehab community for strokes and for CP know this stuff, yet there's still this part of it where they just want to put more and more shoe and more to control movement. But yeah, it's there's definitely a place for orthotics and for these
Well, the
situations.
extreme part was I've just had to fight off the operation
Yeah.
route, which is we will break your feet and reset them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
managed
it's
to
a hard
stop
situation.
that
Yeah.
at this stage, because she doesn't need it. She's it's about her ability to continue.
Yeah.
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 And I'm just concerned that we're still in an environment that would push these more traditional routes.
You might accept the treatment, but you don't always have to.
Yeah, true.
So are there any negatives to barefoot shoes?
Plenty. Plenty if you don't do it sensibly.
So you mentioned about having to go into it slowly. So
If children never went into a conventional shoe, which is heeled, cushioned, and stiff, then I'd say podiatry wouldn't even be a profession.
But you're saying someone like myself, right? You know, I wear mine all the time.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to transition, it's something I don't think you guys have really touched on, how you would transition from a normal shoe into a fully barefoot shoe.
You might go barefoot around home to start with. You might already be doing that. You'd be, in terms of the time, you're just picking moments that you're not going to be on your feet so much to start with. Like maybe just going down to the cafe or just not doing anything too strenuous, noticing how that goes. And then maybe starting to do some slightly strenuous things and then slowly building up that time. The biggest issues happen when it happens too quickly, so it's about doing it gently, and then, especially considering your history that you've filled us in on today a little bit, you're definitely wanting to be doing some restorative and building up work at the same time.
But I wouldn't need to transition to a set of different shoes to get there.
Some people
Because that could be expensive, and that's
Yes.
something they want to pay for. But if I could say, this is where I'd like to end up, this is your path to go from this to that, without...
The simplest path would be to buy a pair of shoes you know you want to get into and very gradually spend more time in that shoe. The only issue with that is, let's say someone's very used to a very built-up, cushioned, supportive shoe that is narrow, and the shoe that they want to get into is very minimal or like close to barefoot, and they can only spend 5 or 10 minutes a day in that shoe, and they need to build up 5, 10, 15 minutes a week, for example, and then the rest of the time they're in the shoe that squishes their toes together. That can be doing more harm than good, because that's however long, maybe hours a day in this shoe that's really disrupting the foot function, and only minutes a day in this shoe. So that's usually where I would tend towards asking for a transition shoe that allows you to splay your toes. Like Andy talked about at the start, that the foot shape and the fix is what we see as a non-negotiable. So you absolutely need, for optimal foot function, you need to have a foot-shaped shoe. And so if you can find maybe one in-between shoe that allows you to spend hours in it, which is foot-shaped, and you can get rid of the shoe that's squishing your toes together, and then maybe for your next pair of shoes, you go to the fully minimal and then build that up gradually. So then you spend minutes a day in a more barefoot shoe that is asking more from your calf and your Achilles and the flexibility in your foot, and then hours a day in the shoe that isn't asking as much of those capacities, but is still allowing that natural splay.
Even better, like you said, maybe being barefoot at home instead of
that's perfect.
wearing Crocs or whatever.
Yeah.
What we'll do too is we've got a mini course, which is the first week of that program. I was telling you about before, the 12-week program. So it's got training, but then it's also got education from Jim and Andy, talking for 15 minutes about that very question you just asked, and covering orthotics, some of the common conditions. If you want to have a chat to Ali and give her your emails, if you want
I'm
to
going
get access
to
to that.
get that course available to me, aren't I?
Yeah, we'll give you guys all free access, so you can have a little try of the training and all the education. So you got something to take home, because it is a lot, but
So it'd be free for these guys here? Oh, that's amazing.
So just grab the email.
That'd be really
and
good.
I can make sure that
Yeah,
you can
fantastic.
send it
Which
out.
is, and if you love it, that's when you might end up doing the 12-week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we could probably go ahead then.
Just one thing, you've all talked about being active in them, which I am in my barefoot, but actually travelling and sitting down and driving, they're amazing for that. I was that awful person that was always there on transport trying to take my shoes off because they tipped and it made my hip hurt. And the barefoots don't do that. You just wear them
Yeah,
the
we
whole
obviously
day.
travelled a lot, and we had a little competition through the airports to see who could see the first pair I saw a pair of shoes. And then part of the competition was we had to go and interview them. She was a bit weirded about that.
But she
So
said
it's got a job.
She travelled with them because they were comfortable.
Because they're comfortable, yeah. I've been travelling in these because they have a zip, and so when I'm on the plane, I can just easily get them on and off. And I was doing the 5-day course that Max just mentioned, every 30 to 45 minutes on our 13-hour flight, and my feet were far less, well, they weren't swollen by the end of the flight. It was wonderful, just because I kept them moving.
Yeah.
We do get up and down a lot as well. Yeah.